Hi, this is Ryan here with Johnson Storage Moving, Longmont, Colorado. I'm operations manager.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm the diesel mechanic for Johnson's from Longmont to Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Hello, I'm Wilson, and I work for Longmont, Colorado as a CDL Class A driver.
We're just going to go through a proper pre-trip this morning. Wilson's one of our CDL drivers, so he's very thorough at doing his pre-trip. We're going to go through it for you guys this morning.
First thing you want to do is open up the hood, check the fluids. We're checking the engine oil while the truck is cool. You want to wipe off the dipstick before to get an accurate reading. Make sure there's the appropriate amount of oil. It's not low. Second, we're going to check the power steering fluid. You want to check it while it's cold because it boils. Sometimes they're clear where you could just see it. Otherwise, you'd have to open up the cap and check it. We're good on power steering fluid. We're going to go over to the coolant side. Same with the oil, you're going to want to check the coolant while the engine is cold. Do not check it while it's hot. A lot of them are clear where you could just see the coolant through it. Just make sure it's above the cold fill line and below the max cold line. We do have windshield washer fluid here. You're going to want to make sure you have windshield washer fluid and not empty so you can wipe off your windshield. We're going to go back to the other side. You want to make sure all your hoses, electrical hoses, air lines, everything is connected. You don't see any loose wires, nothing's all secure, everything's good. All your C-clamps on everything is attached, nothing looks loose. And then we're going to move to, once we turn on the truck, you'll check the transmission fluid, but the truck has to be running. We're going to go to our brakes next. We're going to check the brakes. You want to make sure there's no more than an inch of pull on the slack adjuster. If there's more than an inch of pull, your brakes need to be adjusted and it's not safe to drive. Make sure your C-clamp is attached to your brake caliper, your brake chamber. All your drive lines are good. There's no missing bolts, nothing's broken. On your leaf springs, you want to make sure both your U-bolts are attached and their leaf springs are not shifted and they're all aligned properly. Your brake hoses are now attached and there's nothing leaking and everything's secure with no leaks or holes or anything. You want to check another fluid, which will be your hub seal. Open it up, stick your pinky in there, make sure there's oil on it and it's not leaking. All your lug nuts should be here and tight, nothing should be loose. Your hub should be seated right next to your tire. There should be no gap or nothing. Your tire should have no sidewall damage and should be inflated to no less than 80 psi. If you have less than 80 psi, you need to get it filled up. Your tread depth should be 4/32 on your steer tire. You can use a tire depth gauge to check it. Make sure your valve stem's not cracked or broken so you're not leaking air. And you do this for both your front steer tires. You have your belt. You want to make sure your belt has no more than an inch of play. And there's no holes, cracks, shifts. Start the wheel.
All right, let's go down to the braking system, the brakes, the drums. Come around on this side of them, please. Right now, we're going to check our brake pads, make sure there's no cracks, there's no broken pieces, make sure that we are a 1/4 inch pad thickness left on the brake. We're going to stick our finger in here, feel for grooves, any kind of grooves on our drums. Make sure that our drums are still good to where our brakes will grab. And if it's good, it's good. But like he said, our steer tires are 4/32. So we're looking for any punctures or anything while doing an inspection. We're also wiping the tire down, looking for secondary rubber. Secondary rubber means this tire will blow whenever it wants to blow. We're also looking for cracks in the rims. You know, there's sometimes these guys, they'll hit potholes or whatnot, and it'll crack a rim. And your tire might be good, but you're losing air and you can't figure it out. So always look at your rims, double check your tires, and like you said, if you get below 80 psi, you're going to be looking for a run flat. That's sidewall separation, and that's a no-go.
All right, we're going to close the hood. You want to make sure your mirrors are attached. Nothing's loose. All the bolts are good. Your actual mirrors are good. Nothing's loose. Everything's attached. They're clean, not dirty. Wipe them down if you need to. Your door opens, closes, latches properly. You want to make sure you have your seal, your weather seal, on both the inside and the outside of the door. Your steps are properly mounted. Nothing's broken. It's all good and secure. You're not going to slip or fall. We'll go to the other side. You have to check your windshield wipers. Make sure they still function, all the rubber's on, and they're good to go. Fuel tank. You want to make sure your fuel tank's not leaking, and all your bands or straps are mounted and properly secured. Your DEF. Make sure your DEF tank is secure. If it's not leaking, you need more than 1/5 of a tank to operate. This is your battery compartment. Just make sure it's secure. We'll start the truck up.
While we got the door open though, it's always make sure that your seat belts work. Always make sure your seat belts latch. Go ahead and start your truck.
Wait for the truck to cycle before you turn it on. Oil pressure should rise immediately. If you don't have any oil pressure, there's a problem with the truck. Your temperature gauge, it'll rise as the truck heats. Make sure there's no warning signs. Both your air tanks are building pressure. We're going to do a light check test. We're going to turn on our lights. We're going to let the truck run for about 10-15 minutes, and we'll check the transmission fluid. Check that both our headlights work. We're going to check that all our clearance and marker lights work. There should not be a light out on the truck. You're going to have to look at the top of the truck to make sure all your marker lights are working. And both your tail lights are on, and your clearance lights up top are working. We're going to go back up front. You need to have more than 50% of your DOT tape visible. Start with the left turn signal. Make sure the front side turn signal works as well as the front. We're going to make sure your back turn signal works. We're going to go back up front, check the other side. no murders. While we're back here, might as well make sure your lift gate is fully functional. It's all the way up in the locked position. It's not going to be dragging, and it's not leaking any hydraulic fluid. Before we're done with the light test, we need to check our brake lights. The easiest way to test your brake lights is if you have someone stand at the back of the truck while you're going to press the brake pedal to make sure it works. While they're at the back of the truck, we're just going to check our four-way flashers. Do the four ways work? We're going to check the front. All the four-way flashers are working. Last thing to do is make sure your lights work. Both the brights on this Freightliner work. We completed a light test. We're going to go to the back of the truck now. Make sure your truck door is fully intact and secure. It's not loose or broken at any point. The back of your truck has mud flaps. Both the tires need to have mud flaps, and you have DOT tape on the back side.
So one thing that I forgot to mention while looking at the brakes underneath there. So when you're laying underneath the truck, you're checking your brake pads, the thickness of your pads, the drums. You want to see if there's any oil residue or anything wet, any oil that's coming out, because that would mean that your inner wheel seal is either weeping or is blown out, and it needs to be repaired immediately. This truck would be deemed not safe to drive, if so.
Same thing as the front. We're going to check our back tires. Make sure both the tires are inflated properly. There's no sidewall damage. There's no nails, holes, nothing. Your tread depth is no less than 2/32. You can use the tread depth gauge to be able to tell that you're good. You scroll until you see the number. We're at 22. Same with the valve stem. It's not cracked or broken. All your lug nuts are intact and secure. And there's no oil leaking, no cracked rims. Your hub is connected to your tire with no big gap. Both these tires, you want to make sure that there's nothing in between, and they're both butted up properly. Then we're going to go to our same thing. We have our leaf spring mounts right here. Make sure the bolts are good. There's nothing wrong with your bolts. All the mounting bolts are in. There's nothing missing. It's tight. The leaf springs are on top of each other. You have your brake chamber, brake caliper. It's right here. Make sure this bolt, you need this C-clamp. If that C-clamp's not there, your brakes will not be functioning. As well as your drive line. Your drive line is connected. There's nothing caught in between it, and it's functioning and secure. There's U-bolts here that are connected to your axle and your leaf springs. You want to make sure both those are good. There's nothing broken or damaged. All your air lines are connected. No leaks, no holes. While we're here with the air tank, you're going to want to make sure the tank is secured and mounted properly. Both the bolts are secure. The hoses are good, and it's building and letting the governor release air. We are going to be draining our tanks every day, so there's no water buildup, no residue, and it doesn't freeze, and your brakes will work better.
The carrier bearings. The carrier bearings, you have 1, 2, 3. Always make sure your carrier bearings are secure, fully secured. Make sure you got 2 bolts on each side that are holding it up with a face plate in the middle. You want to make sure everything's tight on it. You make sure you have no play side to side when you move it. If you do, it needs to be repaired immediately.
Mounting bolts. You're going to have U-bolts all along your chassis. You want to make sure that there's nothing's missing, they're secured, all your mounting bolts are correct. You're going to go up front underneath the truck. Your exhaust. All the clamps are correct. There's no missing hardware. Everything's secured and tight. Do not touch the exhaust when it's been running. There's no black soot buildup, and that all of your wires and lines are good. We'll go in the cab real quick. Every one of these trucks should have 3 safety triangles: a fire extinguisher and extra fuses. Now that the truck's been running, we're gonna open up the hood. We're gonna check the transmission fluid. Just like oil, you wipe it off, re-dip it. Make sure you get an accurate reading. This truck has plenty of transmission fluid. It's safe to drive. Got horn. Make sure your city horn works. Some trucks are equipped with a highway horn, which would be an air horn, and make sure it works as well. Make sure your seat's fully attached, nothing's damaged, all your gauges work, your truck builds air pressure in the airbags, nothing's leaking. Both your windshield wipers work. Everything's attached. I'll show you real quick about the airbags now that the truck's been running. The airbags should be fully intact, no holes, no damages, and inflated properly. Just make sure your mud flap is attached properly too. Anything else we should add?
We're doing a brake test. Yeah, we do a brake test.
We'll do a brake test real quick, an air brake test. Air brake. Put the truck in drive, and the truck should not move. You're going to want to turn the truck off. And you're going to want to restart the air brake test. Turn the truck 1 click. Deflate your air tanks. We're going to do an air brake test. Your air warning should come on. That means you have low air. It's either a verbal or a light warning. Should come on around 60 to 50 psi. Then you're going to want to turn the truck back on. And the truck should build air. The air warning went off, so the truck built its air back up in the primary tank.